Namaste. So, welcome back today's class. So, today we'll start discussing on construction practice part. If you see the our curriculum, so curriculum is like this. So, we already completed Unit 1 stones, bricks, tiles, and sand. Unit 2 cement mortar, and concrete. Unit 3 timber and surface protective materials. These three units comprises two. If our subject name is building materials and construction practice, so first three units are a briefing about building materials, and the next three units are briefing about construction practice, right? So we have already completed up to three units, that is construction building materials part we have completed. Now we are stepped into construction practice part. So here we have again another three chapters, that is classification of buildings, foundations and masonry, and doors, windows, lintels, scaffolding, staircases, and roofs, floorings, decorative and protective finishes. Yeah, these three chapters related to our construction practice part. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Actually, here classification of buildings, foundations, masonry, doors and windows, lintels, scaffolding and staircases, and the roofs and floorings and protective decorative finishes. Three chapters is comprises, but compared to all six chapters, this fourth chapter is very big chapter, which is having a huge syllabus, right? So let us start fourth chapter again. So fourth unit is having a classification of buildings and types of masonry also there. So and even soil investigation, different types of foundations, construction process of spread foundation also there. So today our aim is to complete various component parts of a building and their functions, right? And state the classification of buildings, right? So this is what actually, what is the definition of a building? Right. As per NBC, National Building Code, uh, so pop-ups are coming, so I can't able to stop this all. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. As per National Building Code, any structure for whatsoever purpose and whatsoever materials constructed and every part thereof, whether used as human habitation or not, is called a building. Right? Any structure which is used for a shelter, I mean, that is called a building. Right? So buildings are very basic structures of a civil engineers. So many photographs are right. So building is a basic structure for civil engineering. So can you stop this all? Right. Building is a basic structure for any civil engineering purpose. So we are deal with all buildings uh, means it's a major contribution uh, means civil engineer means construction for buildings, right? There are many types of buildings are there. Actually, what are the component parts of a building? If you see the component parts of a building, so a building should be constructed on a strong foundation, am I right? So building is the basic uh, uh, component parts, you can say. One is foundation, which is below the ground level. Next is plinth, which is above the ground level and below the ground level and holding the superstructure. And third one is a superstructure. And these are the main components of a building. Actually, laptop hang. So there are three major component parts of a building, that is foundation, and another is a plinth, third is a superstructure. These are the main component parts of a building, you can say, are basic components of a building, you can say. So buildings can be stand on a strong foundation, what I said. So foundation should be strong. So foundation should be on a ground, hard strata, so that our building can be mm, standard, right? So let us see the functions of these basic component parts. So foundation, first is foundation. This is a, why it is not opening? Yes, okay. Let us close this one. Foundation is the uppermost, bottommost part of a building, which stands on a hard strata, and you can say it is a prime structure of a building. So building cannot be directly constructed on the ground, even if it is a on rock. And if you say a rock is a hard strata, so even it is on the rock also, you cannot construct the building on the rock. You have to be dig the foundation to some extent, so that you have to construct the foundation to complete any building, right? So yeah, building yeah, main parts of a building, you can say substructure, foundation, and superstructure. I said three basic points already, basic classification. Substructure is a our foundation is the lowest portion of a building, usually located below the ground level, which transmits the loads of the superstructure to the supporting soil. This is very important. And the superstructure is that the part of structure which is constructed above ground level and which serves the intended purpose, for what purpose you are building construction, right? So that is a superstructure. And if you see the detailed component parts of a building, there are so many component parts of a building. You can see, yeah. Before seeing this component parts of building, let us see one small video. So here we have to be concentrated on component parts of your buildings and their functions, right? So everybody knows what are the component parts of a buildings, but you have to be as an engineer, you have to be have you should have more knowledge on functions of each and every component. What is the importance of that function? If you say the foundation, plinth, if you say columns, right? So lintel, so you have to get a acquainted knowledge about this. Yeah, this is showing the components of building, so very effective way. See, the components parts of a buildings are like that: foundation, plinth, masonry units like walls, pillars, sills, lintels, lofts and sunshades, floors and roofs, doors, windows and their openings, vertical transportations, stairs, lifts, escalators, protective and decorative finishes. These are the some component parts of a building. Let us see their functions one by one. So if you see the drawing, so this is the foundation, the structure which is below the ground level, right? And this structure is called a plinth. So means half above ground level and half below ground level. That is a plinth. You can say sand filling this all. And this is a superstructure. So this is a door. This is a lintel. What is showing, right? So and if you say this is a walls and this is the first floor. Again this is a door, this is a sill of a window, and this is a lintel, and this is a sunshade which protects the doors and windows from the othering agencies. And again lintel, this is another roof, and roof flooring weathering course, and this is called parapet wall. This is the skeleton of a building to know the different component parts of a building. Let us see the functions of one and all, right? So foundation, so it is the lowest part of a building below the ground level of the surrounding ground, which is in direct contact with the soil strata, hard soil, and transmits all superstructure loads to the ground, right? Foundation functions, the basic function of the foundation is to transmit all loads, whether dead loads or live loads or wind loads, earthquake loads, acting on the structure, superstructure, uh, transmits to the soil on which it is resting, right? To distribute all loads uniformly to the soil, to prevent unequal settlements of the foundation or unequal settlement of a building, you can say, and to provide a level and hard surface for the superstructure, to increase the stability of the structure against sliding or overturning, right? So our structure should be strong to resist the stability against sliding or overturning due to the wind effect or any earthquake effect, right? So next is plinth. So plinth is defined as the portion of the structure between the surface of the surrounding ground and the floor level of the building. Means the structure which is slightly above the ground and slightly below the ground, which is the connection between the foundation and superstructure, you can say, right? The minimum height of a plinth should not be less than 450 mm, that is 1.5 feet, right? So functions of plinth are plinths functions of plinth. Yes, to protect the building from dampness or moisture penetration into it, this plinth can be increase the stability and durability of the structure, to transmit the load of superstructure to the foundation directly, not direct contact with the foundation. So to act as a retaining wall, so as to keep the fielding in position below the floor of the building, to improve the elevation of the building. Also we are constructing a plinth, right? Next is walls. Wall is a basic component part of a superstructure which creates inclusions of various occupations like various rooms or so privacy room, bathroom, or any privacy room. To already you can say that to uh, discriminate or to nomenclate a different living conditions of a rooms, different parts of a building rooms, you can say the walls or barriers, you can see, right? So wall is nothing but masonry, right? Walls are two types. One is a load bearing wall, another is a non load bearing wall. Load bearing wall means there is no columns at all. and directly load is coming from the superstructure to the walls, and the walls can be transmit the load to the plinth, and plinth transmit the loads to foundation, foundation transmit the loads to the below the ground level. Means directly load is slab load or superstructural load uh, coming onto the walls. These are called load bearing walls, the walls which bear the loads. What is non-load bearing walls? Means first of all, skeleton will be constructed. So all columns will be constructed, and slabs will be constructed. So slab load directly coming to the onto the vertical members, that are columns, and the columns can be transmit the load to the foundation, right? So the walls which are constructed in that skeleton systems are non-load bearing walls. So very small thickness walls you can construct that load already directly taking care of vertical structural members that are columns, right? So load bearing walls means these walls can carry entire load coming from roof and transfer the same to plinth beneath it, right? Non-load bearing walls means these walls are preliminary meant for enclosing and dividing the space used in framed structures and columns, carry the entire load and transfer the same to the foundation beneath it, right? Functions of walls: to provide required privacy for various room in a building, to transfer the loads from floors to the foundation. The external walls will provide the required safety against theft. So generally external walls are high thicker than interior walls, right? To protect the interior of the building against natural agencies like rain, sun, wind, or weathering agencies, we required walls, right? Next, columns. These are the vertical members meant for carrying loads from beams, floors, slabs, and transfer the same to the foundation. Vertical structural members. Next, doors. Door is a wooden or metallic shutter fixed to a frame which is turned fixed to walls of a opening. It used to control the movement in and out of the building. So these are the barriers which are you can allow to enter into the room, or you can restrict into the room. These are used as for that purpose, right? So windows and ventilators we use for only sunlight purpose or air ventilation purpose. Window is a made wooden or metallic structure shutter fixed to a frame, which in turn fixed to walls of a opening meant for admitting light and air. Ventilator is a opening in a wall provided for the purpose of ventilation, right? These are provided above ventilators are provided above windows levels, and window top level should match to the door top level. Then the different sizes of windows are you can fix it, right? Next is sill is a must. Why sill is must means to protect the horizontal portion, bottom portion of the window, bottom portion of the window wall. You can say a window is constructing in the wall. So to protect the bottom portion of the wall, you need a sill, and the even upper portion of the wall can be protected by lintel, right? So the horizontal surface of the wall at the bottom level of the window frame is called sill of window, right? Sill protect the top of wall from wear and tear, right? Next is lintel. So the upper portion of the window or door will be constructed with lintel. Lintel is a horizontal structural member provided to support the weight of the wall above the opening door or window, right? Sunshades. These are the extension from the lintels. Right? Sunshades are generally combined with the lintel and are provided on doors and windows of exterior walls, outer side. So sunshades protect the doors and windows from the weathering agencies like sun, rain, and even wind, frost, like that. A roof. Roof is the uppermost part of a building completely enclosing the structure, constructed in the form of a framework to give protection the building, not to enter, allow, not to enter train, heat, wind, etc. Right. Next is the floor. So the horizontal leveled surface which provides a base for movement of occupants and placing the furniture, machinery and other household appliances. Right, it will divide the building vertically into different levels. Right, it is meant for supporting the dead and live loads applied on it. Right, the topmost floor is called a roof. Right, so floor is means where we stepped into, that is called we can floor. So if you say the ground floor, if you see the ground, see to the top in the when you are standing in the ground floor, that is a roof. If you step into first floor, that is a, again the ground floor roof is turned as a floor of a first floor, like that. Right. Steps and staircases. A stair is defined as a sequence of steps and is provided to afford the means of ascent and descent between the floors and landings. Right. Functions of stairs. To provide the means of communication between the various floors, stairs provide the means of escape from the upper floors in the event of fire. Finishes of buildings. These are the decorative renderings given to the exterior and interior surfaces of the buildings in the following forms: plastering, pointing, painting, like this, and cladding, etc. Right. Functions of finishes to protect this structure, uh, especially the exposed surface from the effect of weathering agencies, to increase the life of the structure, to cover up the some extent or defective poor workmanship, we can use as a surface finishes. Right. Next we'll go to classification of buildings. Right. So actually buildings are classified according to the NBC, that is called National Building Code. Right. So actually this what there is a difference between National Building Code and International Building Code. That National Building Code means what we are following in our country. Right. So National Building Code will elaborates issued by Bureau of Indian Standards. Uh, Yes. Yeah, this is what he explained very in very detail. What is the building code? Why we have to follow for our own building, private buildings? Means answer is very simple. He said like your contamination of water, contamination of land, contamination of air is quietly affected to the surrounding areas, so that it should be followed a common building codes for all over the country. Some states may have follow same building codes as it is, or some states may have modified, or some states may have their own building codes, but it should be enforced by municipal department or town planning department. They should control the all building norms. According to the National Building Code. Actually, this is a Bureau of Indian Standard developed code. So this code is it should be revised for every year. 2006 it is revised. As per NBC National Building Code, buildings are classified into like this. Means 10 types: residential buildings, right? Yeah, this is showing what are the loads coming onto the buildings. Yeah. So residential buildings, educational buildings, institutional buildings, assembly buildings, buildings, mercantile buildings, industrial buildings, storage buildings, and hazardous buildings. Like buildings are classified into 10 types according to their usage, right? So again these are subdivided into different, like if you see group A, residential buildings, group B, educational buildings, group C, institutional buildings, group D, assembly buildings, group E, business buildings, group F, mercantile buildings, group G, industrial buildings, group H, storage buildings, group J, hazardous buildings. Are around nine types of are there classification of buildings, right? So again, these residential buildings are again divided into further, right? So residential buildings are these include any building in which sleeping accommodation is provided for normal purpose, or with cooking or without cooking, or with dining or without dining, or both facilities, like apartment houses, dormitories, hostels, and individual buildings comes under residential buildings. Educational buildings means this includes any building used for education from nursery to university level, right? All comes into educational buildings. Institutional buildings, this includes any building which is used for the purpose of such as a medical treatment and care of persons mental physically illness, like mental hospitals, right? These are all called institutional buildings. They provide sleeping and accommodation also, right? So even assembly buildings, this includes the buildings which are group for the gathering of different group of people, right? Amusements, recreation clubs, religious and patriotic civil purpose different buildings comes here. Business buildings, these buildings include the buildings which used for transaction of business or keeping of accounts and records, right? Banks, shopping malls, these are called business buildings. Mercantile buildings means these buildings include which are used for sale and display of products or warehouses, wholesale shops, retails, right? Shops and stores, warehouses comes into mercantile buildings. Industrial buildings used for there are buildings used for production of all kinds of materials and products, fabricated assembly buildings, plants, laboratories. These are called industrial buildings. Storage buildings means buildings used for storage and sheltering of goods, warehouses, merchandise, vehicles, etc. These are called storage buildings. Hazardous buildings. These buildings includes use of storage, handling, manufacture of process of materials of highly consumable, toxic or poisonous material or explosive materials can be stored in hazardous buildings. Right. So these are different classification of buildings, and this is the summary what we have studied, and detail of classification of buildings will be seen in next class. Right. This is what some small quiz also there here. You can see which part of the building is having a which part of the building is component part of a building. You can say all, right? So horizontal member which supports the weight of the wall above opening is called a lintel, right? So residential buildings from the above dormitory. NBC stands for National Building Code, right? Examples of business buildings, you can say the building which is used for gathering purposes are the assembly buildings. So these are the some frequently asked questions. Various components of a building, important components of a building, list the functions of a plinth, draw the cross section of a building and name the component parts, state the classification of buildings and give an example for each. So today we have seen the broad classification of buildings. Tomorrow we will see the in detail classification of buildings, like residential buildings again further classified, educational buildings again further classified. We'll see in the next class. Until then, okay, thank you.